let's continue with Rob Manfred on this thought, because it occurred to both of us in our break that we didn't mention what I think is a key point on the Rob Manfred baseball philosophy, which is that he doesn't have one. He doesn't appear to be loyal to what this game is, because this season, for whatever reason, Major League Baseball, well, I know the reason. They instituted the rule, we run a runner on second in the beginning of the 10th inning, beginning of extra innings. You're going to have a runner on second. He'll count as an unearned run if he comes across, but that will accelerate extra innings. We don't want any games running long. This felt like, to me, a way for MLB to sort of force its agenda on this, because they had tried it, or at least I think they considered piloting it, but it was something that they had brought up earlier. They used the pandemic as an opportunity to say, we need this. I'm not sure how the pandemic and a runner on second are related, but in any case, they were able to push that and they got it done. And the new thing is that Rob Manfred is open to keeping that going. And to continue with Rob Manfred and our criticism of him, I don't like that, and I think he should recant what he said.
Yeah, that is it's not a good rule. It's not a good rule.
No.
It's definitely a logical stretch to suggest that it helped, minimize player risk, other than the fact that it might shorten games and keep players off the field, which I guess I understand. But the bottom line is that's not baseball. You don't ever start an inning with a runner on base. The point of baseball is you have to get players on base and then move them over. So
Correct.
I don't know. It just seems very artificial. And if we're playing devil's advocate, I'm sure if you were talking to a baseball player in the 50s and you told them that there could be a player who would hit for your pitcher but not play the field, they would laugh in your face. So there are definitely some good things. I like the DH rule that come out of, artificial or like augmentation of the baseball rules, the traditional rules. I don't think this is one of them because it's so outlandish. It completely affects, the scoring of a game. And honestly, I definitely as much as like 18 inning games, and they're very rare, but sometimes they happen and they can be a slog. I personally kind of like them. I remember in World Series in 2018, game 3, Red Sox Dodgers, that was a very long game, went 18 innings. And we saw an incredible performance from Nate Eovaldi coming out of the pen and throwing 9 innings in relief. It was incredible, but he pitched very well. That's a moment he'll never forget. A lot of fans will never forget. And, extra innings it's an extremely intense and very integral part of baseball. So to change it in such ways, it's just very not baseball. It's very unbaseball. And it's very telling of, Rob Manfred and his, I guess, at times misguided, but also kind of maybe potentially beneficial ability to say, you know what, like screw the old heads. We're going to make baseball better. But I don't think this is making baseball better.
Well, I think I don't know how directed it is at making the game better, because the game is perfect. This is baseball. This is America's pastime. It doesn't require betterment. This is just a purely financial interest. Can we? And I understand that baseball needs to be focused on that. It's a big part of the culture, but it's a decreasing part of the culture. We have NBA is taking many more eyes from baseball that baseball might have had, and especially young eyes. And that's important. And it needs to be talked about. How can we engage youth? Definitely one of the big factors, make the game shorter. And I understand that. So, you see things like limiting mound visits. That's good. Shorter breaks in between innings. That's good. That's good for everybody because nobody likes the commercials. So great. But you don't fundamentally change the game by putting a runner on second base at the start of extra innings. I mean, that's crap. That's not baseball. Designated hitter. I admit that I am in a minority of those who wish that it wouldn't be done away with, because that wish that the pitcher hitting wouldn't be done away with, because that, and I don't necessarily have a good reason. I like that part of the game. I know it's kind of a tired argument, but I love seeing the pitcher hit and every once in a while do something. But I love the element of the bunt, is something that is disappearing from the game of baseball, which I don't like. But young fans probably would rather see a designated hitter. So fine, I'll live with that. I'll allow it. But I can't allow this. And let me also say that Manfred is expressing an openness to an 18 playoff of each division, a 16-team playoff like we saw in the shortened season. And it made sense in the shortened season because it was such a sprint that it made sense. We don't want anybody to get cut short of the playoffs that really deserves a spot here. This cannot stand. This cannot stand for a 162-game season. This is when baseball becomes basketball and becomes hockey, and it isn't those sports. I don't want to see that, because the key to the beauty of the playoffs is that you've got to be good. You've got to be good. You've got to be great to get to the playoffs. You've got to be great. And when you put 16 teams, there were teams that weren't great in the playoffs this year. And I have a big problem with that. And I really, really hope that doesn't stand.
It almost reared its ugly head this past postseason. If everyone outside of the Houston metropolitan area was rooting against the Astros in the playoffs, and it nearly became a Dodgers-Astros World Series. And as much as that probably would have been fantastic for ratings, two teams that absolutely detest each other, it would have been bad for baseball. Because the Astros had a losing record. They're 29-31. A losing record team is not a good team, and they definitely shouldn't be awarded any shot at making, the most prestigious, situation, the highest honor of being the representative of your league. So I don't know that if we might be having a different conversation had the Astros made the World Series. Maybe Rob Manfred isn't as keen as keeping this playoff format. It certainly does. Yeah, I don't like 16 teams in the NHL and the NBA. It's too much. It's definitely not organic when more than 50% of your teams make it to the postseason. It should be something you have to work for. Otherwise, it kind of makes, regular season not really important. I mean, baseball and single regular season games, usually not that essential because there's a lot of them, 162. But in the NBA, the regular season really doesn't really matter. You pretty much know the playoff teams before the actual season culminates. So I don't know. I think it would only have a negative effect on the regular season, on the caliber of teams that are playing each other on the biggest stage, and all around just doesn't seem right. Now, on the contrary, I also see the point that, we started the World Series 30, 40 years ago. The only postseason was the World Series. You just won your league and you got there. And gradually the postseason has been expanding over time. And, the earliest I can remember is just the 18 playoff with a wild card. Now we have a wild card game. And I don't mind that. I think that's cool. Just a one game do or die. But I definitely don't think anything more than 10 is necessary or wanted by fans.
It's not. Look, I don't want to see, like, if the Mets were in the playoffs as an 8 seed this year, I would have welcomed that. But I don't want 16 teams to get in just for the Mets still can't even get it, even with 16 teams. It's embarrassing. But I don't want the spot. Don't give me the spot. We didn't earn the spot. Don't go in. Don't do it. It isn't right. You win the division, you get in. One of the top two teams that didn't win their division, you get in. That's it. Leave it there. I understand that wasn't always the case. It was expanded, and that's probably where at the time the opponents of a second wild card said this is a slippery slope. We're going to become like the NBA one day. But I just don't like the premise that you just have to not be bad in order to be a playoff team.